When you're diagnosed with a chronic condition such as heart disease, diabetes, or hypertension, it can seem very overwhelming. With these conditions, you usually have to change your diet in order to mediate the condition. The easiest way to change your diet is to create a formula. This video is going to share a formula for planning breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks that will include foods that won't make your condition worse, but will also include foods that will help mediate your condition and help it improve. Breakfast is the meal of the day that it's most important to plan. The reason for this is that if you're trying to head out the door quickly or you're not fully alert in the morning, chances are you might not make the choices that are best for your particular condition. Our formula for breakfast is going to be one whole grain item and/or a dairy/protein and a fruit or vegetable. So now we're going to give you some simple combinations of these items that will help you build your own menu. Some people prefer to eat the same thing for breakfast every morning because it keeps things regular, they know what to expect. But some people prefer to mix things up. So you could have a menu in which you eat the same thing each Monday, eat the same thing each Tuesday, or you could eat the same thing for a week at a time or the same thing for months at a time, depending on your preference. Our first combination is one that's perfect for people who have to get going early in the morning. It's a Belvita breakfast biscuit, some Greek yogurt, and then you add some fruit. There's a few different options within this. First of all, if you have a condition such as diabetes, please be careful with the Belvita breakfast biscuits because they can have more sugar than you should have first thing in the morning. With your Greek yogurt, I recommend that you don't get the flavored kind and that you get plain and add your own fruit. This way you are in control of how much sugar that you add to this particular thing. You don't have to eat all of this at once. I, for example, will eat the Belvita breakfast biscuit first thing, but then maybe eat the Greek yogurt as a snack later on in the day. For your fruit, you have a lot of options. You can use cut up fresh fruit, but you can also use frozen fruit. A great way to prep the day before is to add frozen fruit into a container of yogurt that you've made and let it thaw out overnight in the fridge. Then it will be ready the next morning for you. The next combination that you can do is to have oatmeal, and you can add protein powder into the oatmeal to give yourself a little boost, and then add frozen fruit or dried fruit to your oatmeal. You can add fresh fruit as well if that's something that you like. A few things that you want to consider with this is try not to use the packets of oatmeal that have the flavors already added to them. That's a lot of extra added sugar, especially if you're dealing with something like diabetes. You don't necessarily have to add the protein powder to it, but if having protein in the morning is something that helps you carry your meals over, then it's actually a really easy way to do it. I like this protein powder because it's a pea and rice protein that doesn't have any added sugar or flavor, and it doesn't have any added sweeteners as well, so you can not have to add any artificial sweeteners to your diet. For your fruit, frozen fruit is a great option because you don't have to plan ahead for it and you can pretty much have it in the fridge available for you at any time. Dried fruit has a tendency to concentrate the sugar because it's taken out the moisture of the fruit and it doesn't fill you up as well. So I recommend using some sort of fresh or frozen fruit for this, but if you prefer something like raisins, then if it's something that you enjoy, then it's worth it. Another way to add protein to oatmeal is to add in nuts like walnuts or almonds. So one of my favorite breakfast options is super simple and super quick, but tastes amazing. You can start with a whole grain bread and make toast out of it. If you don't like the taste of whole grain bread, then something like the white wheat bread works really well because it has the benefits without having the taste. Then you can add an egg for your protein. You can either do a fried egg, scrambled eggs, or boiled eggs. You're going to add avocado and possibly tomato, and you can make avocado toast. For a super easy way to make this, check out our avocado toast video. So now you have a really easy way to build your breakfast. One whole grain, one dairy or protein, and one fruit or vegetable. If none of these options sound appealing, you always have the option of adding in your own particular things. But by following this formula, you're going to have a great start to your day. The fiber that's in the whole grain is going to help sustain you throughout the day, as will the protein. And the fruits or vegetables are going to give you a boost of the vitamins and minerals that you need for the day. The lunch formula is pretty similar to the breakfast formula. You may need a little bit more so that it lasts you until dinner, but the things you want to consider are an optional whole grain. This doesn't have to be included, but it's helpful. A protein is super helpful as well. You definitely want to include a protein with your lunch, and then a fruit and or vegetables. So the first lunch combo is going to be borrowed straight from breakfast. Your whole grain bread, which can be your whole wheat bread or your white wheat bread. You can add an egg if you'd like to, and then add some avocados and tomatoes. If you're doing this at lunch at your job, it's a good idea to not cut your avocado until right before you're eating it because they turn brown super quickly. So if this is a lunch option that you have, maybe slicing your avocados under your toast might be a better option than to have the mashed up avocados that we use in the avocado toast. If you're away from home, if you're preparing this, then an easy way to bring your egg is to just bring a boiled egg. You can also add Greek yogurt to this, and Greek yogurt has a whole lot of protein in it. Avocados are a great choice for anyone who has high blood pressure or high cholesterol or heart disease. Avocados have omega-3 fatty acids in them, which are proven to lower your bad cholesterol. So overall, it can improve your heart health a great deal. So our next idea for lunch is going to be a smoothie. So I usually start out with a scoop and a half of this protein. It's a pea and rice protein like I mentioned earlier, and it doesn't have any flavor, so it doesn't add any weirdness to it. You can use frozen fruit of any kind, frozen strawberries, mixed fruit, pineapple, and I usually use a sparkling water as my liquid because that takes away from the chalkiness of the powder and adds a little extra flavor. So if you do strawberry and orange, that's super good, or if you do a coconut sparkling water with a pineapple, you have a pina colada smoothie. There's lots of really cool combinations that you can do with this, and if you need to, you can adjust your sweetness with Splenda or stevia. So by using whole fruit in this, like strawberries or mangoes or anything like that, you're adding in extra fiber because you're using the whole fruit versions. If you use something like mangoes have got a ton of vitamins and minerals in it. Another option that you have for these smoothies is to add in things like kale and spinach. This gets you some of your green leafy vegetables, which are awesome for your health. You may notice with this that we're not adding in a whole grain. You're getting lots of fiber from your fruits and vegetables, and you're getting tons of protein that will hold you over in terms of hunger level. But this means that you can save your whole grain portions for dinner or for breakfast. So this one is going to seem really basic, but if you prepare quinoa, which is a grain that has a whole lot of protein in it, it's actually a complete protein, and get the whole grain version, then that counts as your protein and your whole grain. And then you can add that into a salad. And salads have lots of options to add in really great things for you. So you can add in lots of fruits and vegetables. You can add in strawberries, blueberries. Blueberries are very high in antioxidants. You can add in things like olives that are high in omega-3s, and the dressing that you choose is really important as well. If you do a vinaigrette that's got a base of walnut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, that gives you an opportunity to add in some of those oils that actually help you lower your cholesterol. So there's all sorts of different options for building a salad that's super healthy for you and still choosing things that you enjoy. One of the biggest opportunities that people miss with their salads is to make their own dressing. Check out our vinaigrette video that was posted earlier this year for information on how to build your own vinaigrette. But by using things that aren't pre-made, you have control of every ingredient that goes into it. When you're buying purchase dressings, a lot of times they're very high in sugar, and the types of fats they're using aren't the ones that are the most healthy, but they're usually the ones that are the cheapest. By making your own dressing, you're able to choose those individual components in a way that fits your health the most, and it usually ends up costing less than buying the pre-mades. Another option that you have for your salads is adding on lean protein like grilled chicken or baked fish. This is an easy way to add in protein, and some people might prefer it to the plant-based option of the quinoa. If I'm making a salad for dinner is usually our larger meal of the day, and so a lot of times I'll add in maybe some quinoa and some grilled chicken. If you're the type of person that prefers a more snacky lunch, you can start with your whole grain option of a Triscuit. Your protein can be hummus, because by adding the grain and the beans together, that creates a complete protein. And then for your vegetables, you can add in some celery and some carrots. You can also add in a piece of fruit if you'd like to, and things like cherry tomatoes are also awesome dipped in hummus. We should have a video coming out very soon with how to make your own hummus at home, which ends up being a lot less expensive. Another super simple lunch option is to start with some whole grain crackers of your choice, and then add a pack of tuna. With the tuna, it's important to consider the level of sodium in it, so you may want to choose a type that doesn't have flavoring in it and then add in your own. For your vegetables, you can add in some celery and tomatoes and make your own ranch dressing out of Greek yogurt, which adds in protein and doesn't have a level of fat and calories that a mayonnaise-based ranch would have. Another lunch option that you have that's based with crackers is Ritz crackers with a natural peanut butter. It's important to use a natural peanut butter because it doesn't have added sugar and it doesn't have other added oils. I like the Smucker's brand because they don't add palm oil to it, and palm oil is a oil, but it's saturated fat. You can also add apples and celery to it if you enjoy peanut butter with those, and it's an easy way to add in a lot of your different nutrients. When it comes to snacking, the most important thing is to make sure that you have healthy snacks on hand. Snacking is where a lot of people get out of control when it comes to calorie count and fat and salt. There are a lot of different ways that you can keep things on hand that are healthy snacks. A lot of them are going to be things that we looked at earlier for lunch options, just in smaller amounts. So one of the easiest things to do is hummus with celery or crackers. If you have to have something crunchy, then the crackers are a good option. Just make sure they're whole grain. Or if you're just looking for something to eat, the celery is a good option because it has a very little amount of calories. Another easy option is to keep vegetables on hand, like chopped celery or cherry tomatoes, and then make a ranch dressing with Greek yogurt instead of mayonnaise. As I mentioned earlier, making it with Greek yogurt adds nutritional value without adding in a lot of the fat that comes along with purchased dressings or mayonnaise-based dressings. Finally, you can do the peanut butter option as well. A smaller amount than what you would eat for lunch, but using a natural peanut butter along with some crackers or celery or apples is a good way to add in a boost of protein and whole grain that will sustain you for a long period of time. The key with snacks is making sure that you have something healthy in your house. If you have unhealthy snacks in your house, you're going to eat them when you're hungry or bored. So by making sure that you have things ready to go that you can eat quickly, it will eliminate the choice of you choosing something that will be detrimental to your health. Your dinner formula is going to have a basis of protein. This can be in the form of plant proteins or animal proteins. Then you're going to add on a vegetable and then a whole grain or starchy vegetable. The vegetables category, you can pretty much eat as much of that as you want to. As long as they aren't the starchy vegetables that have a great deal of carbs in them, that's a great way to fill up without adding a lot of calories. So our first dinner menu is going to be borrowed from the lunch menu. Once again, we're looking at your whole grain and protein with quinoa, your vegetables with your salad, and then adding in some healthy oils with your dressing. If you'd like your dinner to be your large meal of the day, you can also add in things like grilled chicken or grilled fish. So the next menu is going to be kind of a fill in the blank. You're going to start out with your protein, which is going to need to be a lean protein. This can be things like grilled chicken or turkey sausage if you'd like it, or it can be things like fish. One way that I like to prepare any sort of smoked sausage is to bake it in a toaster oven. If you bake it in the toaster oven for 6 to 7 minutes, it gets super crispy, and it's a no impact way of cooking your food. You don't have to watch it, you just set a timer and let it go. So your next part of this menu is going to be your vegetables. You want to choose one that complements your protein. You also want to choose ones that are low carb. So things like green beans, cauliflower, and broccoli are great choices in these particular situations. Once again, you can pretty much eat as many vegetables as you want, and it's a great way to fill up. So the next thing you're going to add in is your whole grain or grain substitute. If you're choosing a whole grain, you want to limit that, especially if your chronic condition is something like diabetes. This is going to lower the amount of carbs. There's a lot of grain substitutes in the market now, and a lot of them are made out of cauliflower. You can even make fake mashed potatoes out of cauliflower, and there's tons of YouTube videos available on how to do that. This is a great way to add in something that seems familiar, but that is not going to add in a lot of carbs that might end up impacting your health in the long term. Another little effort way to make a meal is to use a crock pot. Making something like a beef or pork roast in the crock pot means that you can set it and forget it. You want to be careful when making something in the crock pot about the types of vegetables that you add in. Things like potatoes and carrots add in a whole lot of carbs. A good way to carefully control the carbs that you add in this meal is to just add a steamer bag of vegetables or two to the beef roast and just cook the beef roast with aromatic vegetables like onions, peppers, and celery in the crock pot. If you feel like you absolutely have to have some sort of starch with your roast, then you can always use whole grain or grain substitute and serve it over rice. Or you can also add in potatoes with the skins on them at the end of the cooking time so that they don't dissolve into your beef roast. Sometimes when it comes to dinner, you just want a burger and fries. And there is a way to do this without causing damage to your system. So one easy way to do this is to prepare sliders. Sliders are mini burgers, so you might only eat one and then fill up the rest of the way with vegetables. Another option for your sliders is to get whole grain dinner rolls as your rolls so that you're not adding in a whole lot of starch without the benefit of the fiber that it adds in. When you're choosing your sides for your sliders, you can always do steamer bags, or you can do sweet potato fries, which have a lower glycemic index. It's important to be careful about the way that those are prepared. When you buy frozen sweet potato fries, a lot of times they are pre-fried, meaning that you're adding a lot of fat into it that you're not aware of. So making your own by slicing them and oven roasting them is a much healthier way to go about it, and you know exactly what's going into your body. Another thing you want to consider with sweet potato fries is the toppings that you put on them, such as cinnamon sugar or the sauces that you put on them. Make sure that it's something that is not going to encourage you to fill up on things that might raise your blood sugar or cause issues in terms of your blood pressure with adding extra salt and sauces. Sometimes you want hot dogs for dinner as well. So once again, what you want to do is choose probably a turkey dog, and choosing the uncured version is going to ensure that you're not taking in extra carcinogens that are a product of the curing process. Once again, you're looking at adding in your vegetables with sweet potato fries or steamer bags and fill up on your steamed vegetables rather than filling up on fries. You also want to choose a whole grain hot dog bun. This is going to add extra fiber in, and that fiber is going to help you out with things like lowering your cholesterol, because fiber grabs onto cholesterol in your body and takes it out. So another great way to plan a meal that's very low effort is to make foil packets. These can be cooked on the grill or they can be cooked in the oven. So in making these packets, you want to add in protein and then vegetables that are low carb, like green beans and peppers. If you want to, you can add in some potatoes with skins, but be careful about how many you add because of the carbs that it adds in. Corn is also a consideration, but once again, that's a carbohydrate as well. The most important thing to remember when planning any menu is that moderation is key. It's okay to have potatoes and corn every once in a while, just be careful about how much you're taking in because of the carbohydrate level and also the impact of things that you might add to those like salt, butter, and additional toppings. So another dinner idea is to have breakfast for dinner, and obviously this could be a breakfast choice as well. But you're going to start out with a protein like a turkey sausage and try to get the uncured version once again. Then you can add in some fruit like a fruit salad, or use that fruit as a topping for something like whole grain pancakes. You can switch up your whole grain in this case. You can do whole grain waffles, whole grain toast, whatever works for you. You could even just do the turkey sausage with avocado toast. This meal is basically whatever you're in the mood for. You're just plugging in whatever foods you enjoy for breakfast or for dinner into the different slots. Planning menus when you've been diagnosed with a chronic condition can seem very overwhelming. Planning, though, is going to be the key. By having a formula that you follow for each meal, and even a formula that you follow for each week, it's going to allow you to make the choices that are best for you. It's a lot less easy to get derailed in what you're eating when you have a specific plan. It's also important that if you ever go off of the plan, that you realize that one meal is one meal. It doesn't mean that you've wrecked your day or your week. It just means that you had a meal that didn't have the wisest choices, and we all need those moments. The key is moderation. Make sure that you're not eating too much of anything or just eating one thing. By keeping moderation and planning ahead, everybody is capable of planning menus that will improve their health over time.